Somewhere out there, the person who pulled away from you is lying awake, comparing everyone they meet to you, and losing every single time. That thought probably makes you feel something complicated. Maybe a little satisfied. Maybe still angry. Maybe you don't even want to feel hopeful, because hope is what got you hurt in the first place. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening in their head when this realization hits, why it takes so long to arrive, and why the realization alone almost never turns into anything. That last part is the piece nobody talks about, and it's the reason this video matters more than the fantasy version of this moment. Here's the part almost nobody explains properly. Avoidant attachment isn't a personality trait. It's a pattern the nervous system builds early on to survive closeness that once felt unsafe or overwhelming. Researchers Mario Mikulincer and Philip Shaver, who've spent decades studying adult attachment, found that avoidant people don't actually feel less. They suppress what they feel, and suppression takes energy. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. The moment the pressure lets up, that ball comes flying back to the surface. So when an avoidant is out there dating someone new, someone who doesn't put that same old pressure on them, someone who doesn't feel like a threat to their independence, their nervous system relaxes. There's less to suppress day to day, which means less energy spent holding that beach ball underwater. And it's in that quieter, less guarded state that old memories they'd been keeping shoved down finally have room to surface. That's when you start showing up, uninvited, in their quiet moments. Not because the new partner is doing anything wrong, but because the avoidant isn't working as hard to keep everything pushed under anymore. So what they buried resurfaces. That's the part I'm going to break down in a minute, because it explains why some avoidants message an ex years later and others never do. There's a real reason for that difference, and it's not just, he wasn't over you. Comparison on its own isn't the realization. Plenty of avoidants notice a new partner feels different and just quietly file it away without ever connecting the dots. The actual realization, the no one else feels like you moment, tends to hit at a very specific point. When a new relationship gets far enough along that it should feel like the last one did, and it doesn't. That's usually when the absence becomes impossible to ignore. It's less a lightning bolt and more a slow leak they finally notice they've been sitting in. And when it does land, it's not romantic the way movies make it look. It's closer to grief. It's the specific, uncomfortable realization that the distance they created wasn't actually protecting them from anything. That the person they pushed away wasn't the threat. They were. It also doesn't hit every avoidant the same way. Someone who spent their whole dating life avoiding depth might feel a flicker of, that was different, and move on within a week, because nothing ever got close enough to compare against. But someone who genuinely let their guard down with you has something concrete to measure the new relationship against, which is exactly why the realization hits harder. Ironically, the more real what you had was, the harder it is for them to avoid noticing its absence. Here's the part I promised you at the start, and it's the one most people skip because it's less satisfying. Knowing something and acting on it are two completely different processes. Insight on its own doesn't repair anything. It just sits there as awareness. An avoidant can fully understand that they lost something rare and still do nothing about it, because the same instinct to shut down that pushed you away in the first place is what keeps them from reaching back out now. The realization doesn't override the fear. It just adds guilt on top of it. This is why you'll sometimes hear about an ex reaching out years later out of nowhere, and other times, nothing ever comes. The difference usually comes down to whether that person has done real work on their own patterns in the meantime, not how strong the realization was. A realization without that groundwork tends to just become one more thing they suppress. Another beach ball held underwater. Except this time, it's memories of you instead of feelings in the moment. Here's a piece of insight that gets skipped a lot, and it's genuinely useful if you're the one still hoping for that call. Longing and love aren't the same thing, even though they feel identical from the inside. An avoidant can miss you intensely, think about you constantly, compare every date to you for years, and still never actually choose to act on any of it. Missing someone is passive. It happens to you. Choosing someone is active. It requires tolerating discomfort on purpose. Plenty of people spend years in the missing stage and never cross into the choosing stage because missing doesn't require anything difficult from them. It's just a feeling they carry around. This matters because it's easy to hear, "They probably still think about you," and mistake that for good news. It might be true, and it might also mean nothing changes. If you're waiting for the depth of their longing to eventually force their hand, you might be waiting on something that was never built to lead anywhere on its own. The only thing that reliably moves someone from missing to choosing is their own willingness to sit with discomfort. And that's not something you can wait into existence from the outside. I want to be honest with you about something, because I think you deserve that more than a comforting story. This video isn't proof they're going to come back, and it isn't a reason to wait around hoping they will. What it is an explanation. An explanation for why the ending never made sense to you. Why someone who clearly cared could still walk away so easily. It wasn't because what you had wasn't real. It's because their capacity to stay present for it hadn't caught up to how real it was. You don't need them to reach this realization for it to be true. It's already true, whether they ever say it out loud or not. And honestly, waiting for someone to arrive at an insight they may never act on is its own kind of holding a beach ball underwater. You end up suppressing your own life around a version of them that might never show up. There's another layer to this that makes the silence make more sense. Once an avoidant actually connects the dots, the guilt that shows up isn't small. It's not just, "I miss them." It's closer to, "I did this to myself, and I did it to someone who didn't deserve it." A nervous system that spent years avoiding discomfort doesn't suddenly know how to sit with a feeling that heavy. So instead of reaching out, a lot of avoidants do the opposite. They go quieter. They throw themselves into the next distraction, the next relationship, the next project, anything that lets them avoid facing what the realization means. From the outside, it can look like they've moved on effortlessly. From the inside, it usually just means the feeling got pushed down harder, not that it disappeared. That's worth remembering the next time you catch yourself reading their silence as proof they didn't care. Silence, for someone who shuts down under pressure, often means the opposite of indifference. It usually means the feeling was too big to look at directly. The most honest thing I can tell you is this: their realization was never actually going to be the thing that healed you. It was just going to be confirmation of something you already knew. You already know it now. So if any part of this sounds like your past relationship, hit like right now so I know I'm not the only one who's lived through this. And before you go, tell me honestly, has someone from your past ever come back around after realizing what they lost? Or are you still waiting on that call? I'm genuinely curious how common this actually is, so drop your story below. If this gave you even a little clarity today, send it to the one friend who's still checking their phone for a text that isn't coming. If you found value in this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.